Over the past 20 years, the Cleveland Browns have been a laughingstock of the National Football League. For a team that's been around since 1946, they've recently seen the worst stretch of football in the past couple of decades. The 70s were pretty bad for Cleveland, but nothing matches their stretch from 1999 to 2019. From Tim Couch as a first overall pick in 1999 all the way up until DeShone Kizer in round 2 of 2017, the Browns were never able to find their answer at the quarterback position. I'm sure most of you have seen that infamous picture of the Browns jersey with all the failed quarterbacks by now, but when you go down the list of the amount of quarterbacks that have started for the Browns, it's pretty astonishing. There are some teams that have had 2 or 3 quarterbacks over a 20-year span, and here are the Browns, who had 18 different quarterbacks make at least 5 starts from 1999 to 2017. All in all, Cleveland had 28 different quarterbacks in the last 20 years, which has to be some kind of record. And while Cleveland had some good seasons like 2002 and even 2007 where they went 10-6, they only made the playoffs one time in a span of 19 seasons. And this was a city that was craving a championship badly until the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from their 3-1 deficit to beat the Warriors in 2016. Cleveland's major sports teams have went 52 years without a title. And for a lot of people, football is their favorite sport, so to have an incompetent football team and have other teams not winning championships for so long, it was a rough stretch for Cleveland fans. Not only was it the rotation of quarterbacks, but the Browns also had 9 different head coaches from 1999 to 2020. There was a span under head coach Hue Jackson in 2016 and 2017 where the Browns went 1-31, which is just absolutely horrendous. But on the bright side, when you are that bad, you usually get rewarded with high draft picks, which is where the turnaround started essentially for Cleveland. Cleveland was rewarded back-to-back first overall picks in 2017 and 2018's NFL draft, and luckily for them, it seems like they landed 2 franchise players with those picks. In 2017, they landed defensive end Myles Garrett out of Texas A&M, who had 3 years of very good production and was dominant on tape. Aside from the incident of him using his helmet as a weapon, Garrett's been an absolute stud for Cleveland and just made his first All-Pro team this past year. And although they started the draft well, I mean, having the first overall pick helps of course, but it can't go unnoticed of how bad Cleveland missed on some drafts in recent years. In 2016, it was wide receiver Corey Coleman, 15th overall out of Baylor, a guy that's currently not on anybody's roster. In 2015, they took Cam Erving to play center, but he only lasted 2 years in Cleveland. In 2014, they had a pair of busts, including cornerback Justin Gilbert and of course quarterback Johnny Manziel. In 2013, it was linebacker Barkevious Mingo, 6th overall, and while he's carved out a decent career, 6th overall is a massive reach. And in 2012, they spent the 3rd overall pick on running back Trent Richardson and picked 22 on a 29-year-old quarterback named Brandon Weeden. We'll leave it at that, but they had a long stretch of terrible drafts, whether the players were flat out bust or they were just overdrafted in general. We just went over all the quarterback woes the Browns had before, but after having the 1st overall pick in 2018, it seems like Cleveland may have finally found their guy. They were coming off an 0-16 season where their franchise left tackle and best player Joe Thomas just retired at the age of 31, but the pick of quarterback Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma may have finally been what the city had needed. At Oklahoma, Mayfield was deadly accurate, coming off 3 very impressive seasons in a row. However, the pick was not an obvious one for 1st overall. Many people were hung up on the idea of Mayfield being undersized at 6'1", and they had a video of him being chased by police, and there were some attitude concerns by certain people as well. But ultimately, Cleveland's general manager John Dorsey, a man who just drafted Patrick Mahomes for Kansas City a year prior, decided to go with Mayfield despite many people not agreeing with that pick at the time. Dorsey also added cornerback Denzel Ward at number 4 overall in that draft, and in that same draft added running back Nick Chubb at number 35 overall. It wasn't a stellar draft overall, but Cleveland ultimately got 3 really good players and basically got their quarterback of the future, which is the most important part. During free agency, they traded for Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry for a 4th and 7th round pick. Cleveland had a pretty weak receiving core, especially with the uncertainty surrounding one stud wide receiver Josh Gordon due to his off-field issues. Landry gave them a reliable guy in the prime of his career. He knew how to get open consistently and had the most receptions by a player through his first 4 seasons in the NFL. He shattered that record so badly that the second most receptions through 4 seasons was Anquan Boldin with 342. Landry had 400 catches in 4 seasons. While Cleveland didn't have the roster to compete for the playoffs, they did improve from 0-16 to 7-8-1 in just 1 season in 2018. Baker Mayfield started the year on the bench in favor of Tyrod Taylor, but in week 3 versus the Jets, he came in and the team never looked back. Baker had the Browns at 6-7 when he was the starter and even broke the rookie record for passing touchdowns in a season at that time until it was just broken by Justin Herbert. He wasn't perfect, but he lit a spark under the entire franchise for sure. One of the biggest storylines for the Browns during 2018 was the firing of their head coach Hue Jackson, who went 3-36-1 as their head coach in 2.5 seasons. There had been some turmoil between Jackson and the GM John Dorsey when suggesting the team had quit on him. Once Jackson was let go, the Browns promoted Freddie Kitchens to head coach, who started the season as a team's running back coach. Under Kitchens, Baker Mayfield finished off 2018 playing at a very high level, and that ultimately was the biggest reason that Kitchens was hired as the full-time head coach the following season. Mayfield had a 78.9 quarterback rating under the combination of Hugh Jackson and former OC Todd Haley, but under Kitchens, his quarterback rating jumped all the way up to 106.2. To make it look better, Cleveland finished 2018 going 5-3 under Kitchens his final 8 games as the head coach. 2019 was a big offseason for Cleveland. It was really the offseason where they seemed like they were all in to try and win a Super Bowl. They highlighted the biggest trade of the offseason by acquiring Giants star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. for Jabril Peppers and 2 draft picks. Beckham in his first 3 seasons in the league was on pace to shatter just about every record, but dealt with injuries in 2017 and 2018. He was coming off a season over 1,000 yards, but played in only 12 games in 2018. Outside of Beckham, Cleveland also acquired guard Wyatt Teller via trade from Buffalo, traded for defensive end Olivier Vernon from the Giants, signed defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson, and signed troubled running back Kareem Hunt, who was on a lengthy suspension at the time. They did not have a first-round pick due to the Odell Beckham trade, but they did snag cornerback Greedy Williams, linebacker Sion Takitaki, and linebacker Mack Wilson in that same draft. Cleveland was the sexy pick to win the Super Bowl in 2019, but that ended up not being the case whatsoever. The 2019 Browns were a team that was very much in over their heads, especially for first-year head coach Freddie Kitchens. Kitchens had his 2018 success with Baker Mayfield by getting the ball out of his hands quickly and implementing some RPOs, but at the start of 2019, it seemed to be majority of vertical routes, and due to that, Mayfield was sacked a career-high 40 times. Maybe Kitchens' game plans would have worked, but Cleveland did not have the offensive line to allow that type of protection for their young quarterback. Although they had the flashy weapons like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and David Njoku, when you have an offensive line of Greg Robinson at left tackle, Austin Corbett at right guard, and Chris Hubbard at right tackle, you can't really have the expectations of having a good offensive line, but Freddie Kitchens did. In 2019, the Browns started off 2-2, but eventually dropped their next 4 games and found themselves at 2-6. They would then start to figure out things offensively again, winning their next 4 out of 5 games, but they go on to lose the final 3 games and finish at 6-10. Saying that this was a letdown was a complete understatement, especially for a team that had realistic playoff hopes. After the disappointing season, head coach Freddie Kitchens was fired after 1 season, and GM John Dorsey was fired after his 2nd season in Cleveland. Kitchens just did not seem ready to be a head coach, and with quarterback Baker Mayfield taking a huge step back in his sophomore season, they knew things had to change. As for Dorsey, it was a lot of factors as to why he was fired after 2 years. Number 1, he was the main reason that they hired Freddie Kitchens as head coach, and when that failed, it made Dorsey look bad in return. Number 2, he apparently wanted too much power. Dorsey was not a fan of collaborating with other people, so when Browns owner Jim Haslam suggested he wanted a more collaborative effort, it probably did not go over too well. Number 3, while he did bring in some talent, he did have a good amount of misses as a GM as well. He didn't really take character concerns into consideration as well when signing guys to Cleveland. Whether it was a lack of background checking or just choosing talent over everything, he didn't exactly do a great job of setting a culture when bringing in guys like wide receiver Antonio Callaway, who failed multiple drug tests in college, or signing Kareem Hunt, who we just saw kicking a woman on video and apparently getting into bar fights. You really can't blame ownership for wanting to start fresh, because this is something that probably was not going to get better. As I mentioned in my recent Arizona Cardinals video, sometimes teams take continuity way too seriously. There are times just like this one where despite your head coach and GM being there for less than 2 years, there were better options elsewhere and it was better to go in a different direction. On January 12th of 2020, it was reported that the Browns were hiring former Vikings offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski to be their next head coach. Stefanski was only 27, and to some this was a risky move, but he had plenty of NFL experience after being with Minnesota's organization since 2006 at the age of 24. I personally thought this was a great hire at the time and thought it was the right head coach to get Baker Mayfield's career back on track due to Stefanski's heavy usage of run plays and play action rollouts. Some quarterbacks are not great at throwing on the run, but Baker Mayfield excels in that area. So was it a match made in heaven? Maybe it was. We definitely saw a much improved Baker Mayfield in 2020. A couple of weeks later, the Browns filled in their GM vacancy by hiring former Eagles Vice President of Football Operations Andrew Berry. Berry had actually been with the Browns organization from 2016 to 2018 and was part of that 1-31 stretch that the Browns had from 2016 to 2017. Berry, like Stefanski, was hired at a young age, but Berry was only 33 years old at the time. But sometimes youth beats out experience, and this is an example example of it. Berry has displayed the use of analytics and positional value, and with those philosophies, he helped put the finishing touches on a Browns team that was 6-10 when he took over the year prior. They had some money to spend in free agency, and they went out right away and signed tight end Austin Hooper as well as right tackle Jack Conklin. They did lose linebacker Joe Schobert, but the additions of Hooper and Conklin were huge throughout the year. It seems like as of today, the Browns had a pretty successful draft. They were able to take what looks like their franchise left tackle in Jedrick Wills out of Alabama, and even added some decent talent late in the draft like wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones and tight end Harrison Bryant. Unfortunately, they did lose their second round safety Grant Delpit to an Achilles injury before the season, but hopefully he has better health in year 2. To help make up for that, Cleveland sent a 5th round pick to Jacksonville for young and underrated safety Ronnie Harrison right before the season started. In 2020, the expectations for the Browns were a lot less optimistic with a rookie head coach and Mayfield coming off a down year, but they exceeded just about every expectation by going 11-5 in year 1 of Kevin Stefanski. Baker Mayfield had a huge bounce back season, throwing for a 26-8 touchdown to interception ratio and a career high 95.9 quarterback rating. There were some concerns of whether Mayfield was going to be a franchise quarterback or just a one-year wonder as a rookie, but those questions were definitely answered in year 3. But it can't go unnoticed as to how much Kevin Stefanski's offense not only helped Mayfield, but the rest of the Browns offense as well. Not only did Mayfield improve, but the Browns rushing attack was top 3 in the league at 148.4 rushing yards per game. As a comparison, the year prior they were at 118.6 rushing yards per game, which isn't bad, but Stefanski brought it to another level. Having a much improved offensive line, whether it was Wyatt Teller playing full-time or the addition of Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin, it made their running attack and even pass blocking so much better than the year prior. They had over 100 more rushing attempts from 2019 as well, so their commitment to the run game was definitely noticed. Their offense in general averaged 25.5 points per game, which is a solid number, but I do think in year 2 of this offense that can be even better. As for their defense, they were in the middle of the pack in most important categories. They had a good run defense ranking 9th best in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game, but their pass defense was 22nd in the league. I'm sure a lot of that had to do with the injuries to Grant Delpit and Greedy Williams, and even Denzel Ward missing 4 games, but that number should get better next season. In their first playoff game since 2002, the Browns ended up winning a game against their division rival Pittsburgh Steelers in a game that was basically over in the first quarter. In the divisional round, they had a legitimate chance of winning, but Cleveland just made so many crucial mistakes at the wrong times. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes left the game in the second quarter with a concussion, and all of a sudden the unbeatable Chiefs had a huge weakness at their most important position. As Browns fans know, the most pivotal point in that game was the goal line fumble by wide receiver Rashard Higgins, and that was ruled a touchback. Yes, it should have been an illegal hit on Daniel Sorensen, and yes, the touchback rule is definitely one that people hate, but instead of possibly going into the half down 16-10, they went in down 19-3. A Baker Mayfield interception out of the half made that game seem insurmountable at the time, but the Browns did cut it to 22-17 and had a legitimate chance of winning until Chad Henne turned a 3rd and 14 into a 4th and inches, and then Tyreek Hill on an out route sealed the deal for Cleveland in 2020. But while the season ended in such heartbreak, there is plenty of reason to believe that the 20-year drought of terrible football in Cleveland is finally over. They seem to have the right head coach in place and even the right GM based on what we've seen so far. And one of my favorite moves so far in free agency has been Cleveland signing safety John Johnson for 3 years and $33.7 million. Johnson is a versatile safety who just turned 26 years old and played at a very high level in 3 out of his 4 NFL seasons, and the one year he was not so good was the year he was injured. They made some other pretty nice small moves as well, like cornerback Troy Hill, who plays slot and outside, defensive tackle Malik Jackson, who's had a nice career and was one of the better defensive tackles of football a few years ago, and he's coming off a pretty decent season for the Eagles, and defensive end Takkarist McKinley, a former first rounder, and had a couple of decent seasons with Atlanta. It seems like Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have a plan in place, and we'll see what they do in 2021's NFL draft, but ultimately Browns fans should be feeling confident about the direction of their team, which is something you could not say for a long time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did for more NFL content, and I'll talk to you guys next time.